Welcome to the Human Capital Innovations Podcast, your go-to source for personal, professional, and organizational growth and development. We hope you tune in often for all things people management, organizational development and change, organizational leadership, and social impact related. Maximize your personal and organizational potential with Human Capital Innovations Podcast. Welcome to the Human Capital Innovations Podcast. In this HCI podcast episode, I explore Simon Sinek's recent video, No One is an Expert in Leadership. Welcome back to the Human Capital Innovations Podcast. It's great to be with you again today for this HCI podcast episode. Today I'll be exploring Simon Sinek's recent video, No One is an Expert in Leadership. Simon Sinek says that he doesn't believe anyone is an expert in leadership, that we're all students. Even the most accomplished leaders have an immense amount of curiosity. There's always more to know. Thanks for joining me, and I'll catch you on the flip side of this first clip.
So leadership is a practice. I don't believe that anyone is an expert in leadership. We're all students. And some of us are more advanced students than others, but it's something that is ongoing. It is literally a practice, and that you have to show up and try and be a better leader every single day.
Yeah.
And so every leader that I admire, and some of them have achieved amazing things. You're hearing from some of them today.
Yeah.
Some of them have achieved amazing things, and they're all curious. And when I sit down with them, they all go like this, and I'm so enamored by that no matter how much they know and how much they've accomplished, they want to know, they know that there's more to know.
I love how he starts by framing leadership as a practice. Now, I can have all sorts of knowledge related to leadership, various theories, approaches, tips and tricks, but that doesn't really mean much of anything. And everyone listening to this podcast, you get exposed to all sorts of ideas, but the exposure to those ideas and even thinking those deep thoughts doesn't necessarily do anything for how you lead in practice. In fact, some of the very worst leaders that I've ever encountered are people who were talking heads about leadership, people who are consultants, for example, who in practice with their people and their consulting teams, they were just horrible. So leadership is about practice. And I really, really like what he says at the tail end of that short opening clip, that the very best leaders, they always stay curious. They are always asking questions. They never think they've arrived. They never think they have it all figured out. When people think they have it all figured out, that's when you run. That's when you really worry. So we need to stay intellectually humble, even when we're experiencing a lot of success, even when we have credentials and we have relevant experience and people look to us and turn to us as thought leaders. That's great. It certainly, helps with our ego, I suppose. But the best leaders don't drink that Kool-Aid. They don't believe the hype. They know that knowledge about leadership means almost nothing if we don't put it into practice. And the only way that we can continually put it into practice is if we stay intellectually humble, we recognize the need to continually strive to learn and grow. That is when we have the potential to become a highly impactful leader. If that's not our approach, inevitably we will stagnate, and it doesn't even matter. Like maybe we were an awesome leader. Maybe our people look to us. They see us as great examples. That might have been the case yesterday, but what about today or tomorrow? What about next year? We can't rely on, in perpetuity, what we did early on. We have to continue to build off of it, and we have to continue to develop and maintain and sustain relationships of trust. We have to continue to strive to be a servant leader, and we have to roll up our sleeves, work alongside our people, and truly demonstrate leadership through practice.
You're never too old to learn.
No, but I'm talking about the Richard Branson, Howard Schultz, like all of these guys that I've had the opportunity to meet. they're all insatiably curious. And they all know that whatever they've done, they know there's so much more they don't know. And the ones I'm suspicious of are the ones that go, I think I know what I'm doing.
Building off of what he said in that first clip, in the second clip, she probes a little bit, the interviewer probes and asks him about those great leaders, and he zooms in on and gives a couple examples of great leaders who are constantly curious, who never feel like they've arrived, who are constantly asking questions and aren't willing to allow themselves to stagnate. He also says kind of what I referred to in my own commentary, that it's when people feel like they've arrived, when people think they have it all figured out, when they think they know what to do, that's where you need to really be scared. That's where you need to run the other way. That kind of arrogance, as well-meaning as it may be, and as much confidence as someone may try to display, that kind of arrogance is a red flag, because either it's false vibrato and they're trying to act more confident than they are, which is disingenuous and dishonest, and it erodes trust, and ultimately they're going to make poor decisions but lean on their position power to try to get people to comply, or they really just think they do know, in which case that kind of intellectual arrogance will lead to all sorts of problems, and they won't rely on the expertise of their people. So we always have to make sure that we are asking ourselves those questions, that we're self-reflecting, that we're asking our team those questions, that we are constantly striving to learn and grow. When we can do that, then we're going to be in much better shape. It's the old adage, the more I learn, the more I realize I don't know. It's cliche, but it's so true. Some of the dumbest people that I know in my life are the highest IQ people. They're geniuses. They're brilliant. But they're pretty stupid when it comes to leadership and practice and interacting with people in relationships. Their EQ and their emotional quotient, their emotional intelligence is low. And so that's why I say they're some of the dumbest people I've ever known. And it usually comes back to arrogance. They think they know. They think they have it figured out, which means they're not really listening. They're not really continuing to learn. And they're not trying to continually grow. That is a huge problem. I'm excited to announce the publication of my new book from HCI Press, The Alchemy of Truly Remarkable Leadership: Ordinary, Everyday Actions that Produce Extraordinary Results. Consider how the nature of work has shifted over the past 50 years. With increased globalization, rapid technological advancement, and the shift in economic composition, the average job of today looks very different than the average job of 50 years ago. What will the jobs and organizations of tomorrow look like? Moreover, what does this all mean for organizational leaders? What are the core competencies and capabilities of organizations and their leadership that are prepared for continued disruption and geopolitical and socioeconomic shifts? Regardless of what the future holds, increasingly, leaders need to be socially minded, data-driven, decisive, champions of talent, and disruptors of the traditional notions of leadership, teams, organizations, and work. The Alchemy of Truly Remarkable Leadership will help you to explore your own leadership competencies and capabilities and consider ways to apply and implement them into your workplace and personal life.
So you don't know what you're doing?
No, I'm learning as I'm going, as we all are. And I think the big mistake that people make about me is that my organization runs flawlessly. It doesn't. My organization has all the same problems as every other organization. We make mistakes. We make stupid decisions. We make short-term decisions. We have employee things. The thing that I pride myself on is how we address those problems. That we err on the side of patience. We err on the side of empathy. And we work very, very hard to practice the things that I write about and speak about.
Yeah.
But the problems are all the same.
Yeah.
It's how we address those problems that I think is where the practice of leadership comes in.
And I really appreciate Simon's own intellectual humility. He is one of the foremost global thought leaders on leadership in the world. People turn to him. He has a huge following. People recognize the value that he adds in the space of just trying to understand better leadership. But he doesn't drink his own Kool-Aid. He tries to put into practice the very things that he teaches and quote unquote preaches. He's trying to practice what he preaches, right? That's what we all need to try to do. Now, that doesn't mean he is perfect. That doesn't mean his organization is perfect. And he highlights something that is super important for us all to recognize, that every organization has problems. I've never, ever seen an organization that didn't have problems, that didn't have people problems, didn't have structural problems, didn't have systems or policy problems. Every organization is a work in progress. You're always building the plane while you're flying it. And anytime you get groups of people together trying to do something important, there will be conflicts, conflicting egos, there will be misunderstandings, there will be challenges. Even when you have people who are on the same page about mission, vision, purpose, who are really trying to accomplish something great, problems still arise. They always, always do. Every organization is messy and has challenges that they have to face. But what he says, which I completely agree is absolutely true, is it's not whether or not you have problems. It's not the absence or existence of problems. Every organization has problems, and if you try to pretend like you don't, you're full of it, and all you're doing is trying to shove things under the rug to put on a facade, and that's not going to help anything. It's just going to blow up in your face. But every organization does have problems. Acknowledge it, accept it, and then it's about how you respond to those problems, how you respond to crisis, how you respond to failure, how you respond to the challenges that you face. Speak volumes about your integrity, about your morals, your values, and ultimately about how you care about your people, how you invest in your people. We always need to focus on empathy, on caring, on sincerely trying to develop our people. And when we do that, even when problems arise, even when there's frustrations, even when there's ego and things get in the way, we'll be able to overcome it, and we'll be able to come out stronger for it. I really appreciate Simon and all of his great thought leadership around leadership in the leadership space. And I appreciate the brief comments that he makes in the video that I share with you today. Ultimately, we need to put leadership into practice. We can learn about it all day long. We can read about it. We can talk about it. Ultimately, we have to do it. We have to learn by doing. And as we learn by doing, we're going to get feedback, and we're going to have the chance to iterate and hone our leadership skills. Most people who are in leadership roles don't know what they're doing in relation to actual leadership in practice. You have to develop that over time, and I'm a big believer that we all have that capacity, but we have to be dedicated to making it happen. Thanks for joining me for this episode of the Human Capital Innovations Podcast. As always, I hope you can stay healthy and safe, that you can find meaning and purpose at work each and every day, and I hope you have a great week. We are excited about the launch of HCI's new magazine, Human Capital Leadership. Human Capital Leadership is a free, interactive e-magazine designed to help individuals, leaders, and organizations find innovative approaches to maximize their human capital potential. We will be publishing issues quarterly in August, November, February, and May. Check out the first issue and let us know what you think. Thanks again for joining us for this episode of the Human Capital Innovations Podcast. I hope you stay healthy and safe and that you have a great week.